This is Brian from workload.co. Today I'm going to give an overview of the workload platform and what it can do, and I'm going to demonstrate the ServiceTitan to PEP integration. PEP is the Painting Estimators program. So here's the workload automation platform interface. This is the dashboard. If you go over here to workflows, you'll see a list of created workflows. And this is a template section that employees of ServiceTitan are using to copy workflows. So they go in here and check all these, and then they copy them into specific 360 painting subtenants, right? But that's kind of the execution side. So what we're going to show you is just kind of an overview of how this integration works. So this integration requires these 5 workflows. So each workflow is represented by this one row here, this kind of outline box. And we go into workflow number 1, which kicks off the entire sequence. And this is a system that is listening for new jobs to be created in ServiceTitan. When a new job is created in ServiceTitan, which is step 1 here. So this is kind of what we're listening for, and this shows you the sample output data. This is straight from ServiceTitan. And then what we're doing is we're adding a filter in between, and this filter is filtering on a specific business unit ID. That way we're not running this workflow on every single job that comes from ServiceTitan. We're only running this workflow on jobs that have a specific business unit ID. So that just kind of demonstrates some of the robust functionality of the workload platform. So once it passes the filter, the next step here, step 2, is it's going to look up some customer information, and then it's going to look up customer detail information about their contact information. So cell phone, email address. Then we're parsing that with these formatter steps here in blue. And if we scroll this workflow up, finally, when we're done with all of the transformation steps here, so we're splitting text, we're extracting things from arrays of data. Now we're going into the PEP Cloud action, which is to create a client. And everything here is kind of in an order, right? So the first step when you're creating a workflow is you're selecting PEP Cloud as the app, and then we're choosing an action. So this action is to create a client. And then the next thing it wants you to do is sign in to PEP Cloud. And when you click on that button, it asks for API key. So the workload platform really is built off of running on APIs. So now we're going to set up this action. And here we're just mapping fields from ServiceTitan, and we're mapping them into the fields for PEP to create a client. So the phone number value is the value that we got from this customer phone step. Up from above. Same thing with zip code. This is coming from the new job created. So that kind of shows you how you map fields, and then you hit continue. And then when this thing runs at runtime, every new job in ServiceTitan, it'll have kind of new data, right? And so that new data will then dynamically update and replace in these steps and create, clients. It'll update the client if it already exists, and then it'll create a job in PEP. And so that's what the gist of the integration is doing here in workflow number 1 is we're just copying a job that's created in ServiceTitan. We're copying it into PEP using this create client, create job combination. Then finally, we're going back to ServiceTitan here in the final step, and we're mapping some custom data to the job that was created in the first place. So we're adding this application GUID with the job ID from PEP, so we can have some kind of reference to which job ID in PEP this job is associated with in ServiceTitan. So that's workflow number 1. Now the second workflow is on the PEP side of things. When you're in the PEP user interface, you see that job that's been created, And now what you're going to want to do is do something called create an eBid, which is like a proposal or an estimate in PEP. So that's this workflow here, workflow number 2. And so the way this workflow gets set up is when an eBid is created in PEP, we have a listening mechanism in place. And when workload detects that PEP has sent us an event that a new eBid was created, we're doing a data transformation, and then we're creating an estimate in ServiceTitan using this step right here. So when you set up the action, here you can see this is a nice form, and this form, when you fill it out correctly and map all the fields, this creates a estimate in ServiceTitan. So it's pretty simple here for workflow number 2. We're just taking eBids that are created in PEP and we're creating estimates for the matching job in ServiceTitan. And then workflow number 3 essentially does the same thing, except it's when an eBid is updated. So these are all like different use cases of the integration. So we have a separate use case for kind of each user functionality. So the first user functionality is that they're finding the job in PEP that was created in ServiceTitan, and they're creating an eBid to send to the user. Now what happens next is, they can update the pricing, and it'll update, it'll create a new estimate in ServiceTitan. And then if the user, let's say the homeowner decides that they want to proceed with the eBid, they'll sign it, and that marks the eBid as 1. And when we mark the eBid as 1, we'll open up this workflow. So now what we're doing is we're finding that job that was marked as 1, and we're getting all the estimates that were associated with that job. We're looping through the estimate, and we're turning them into sold estimates. And then essentially we're doing the opposite effect when the customer doesn't want the eBid and the business owner marks that eBid as lost. We're doing the opposite by looping through all the estimates associated with that job, and then we're marking those as dismissed. So that's this final step here, is marking them as dismissed, estimate, dismiss. And the setup is it's looking for the estimate ID. So that's the sort of basic functionality of the PEP integration with ServiceTitan. And this type of setup can be used with virtually any other application that has an API. You could have this set up with Microsoft Outlook, with Google Calendar. You could have it set up with QuickBooks, anything that requires an integration between the ServiceTitan system and any other third-party tool that uses an API. We could build these one-way workflow systems using the workload platform. If you have any questions or want a follow-up discussion, you can always feel free to email me directly, Bryan, Bryan, @workload.co. Thank you.